the timing of something is rarely something that is a conscious decision on my part, on anything. On any choice I make as a director on a film that I intend to direct, the conscious choice of the timing of it is not something I really understand. I just somehow felt in the middle of the pandemic, when I had more time sequestered in my home, in my house, with my family. Thank God my family was with me. But we weren't driving, we weren't going anywhere, and all I could really do was be with my grown kids, who some of them moved back into the house for the pandemic, my wife, and my dog. And I started just basically, that gave me the time to breathe, to take a big deep breath, and to kind of determine if there was one movie I haven't made yet that I would now have the time to make, what would that be? And it was the answer has always been with me all my life. I've always wanted to tell the story of my mother, my father, my sisters, and this kind of an amazing struggle between art and family. And it's just been on my mind all my life, and it's come out in all my films. I mean, all my films really are personal, and many of them are about family, but nothing that is so specific to my own experiences as The Fabelmans. Yeah. I mean, I know it's a big cliche to say this, and it's not very newsworthy, but my films are like my children. I do not have a favorite. But at the same time, I can tell you the hardest film I ever made was Jaws. Der Weißer Hai. That was there you go. That was the hardest film I ever made, physically. And the most emotional movie I ever made for a long time was Schindler's List, but now the most emotional film I was ever involved in was The Fabelmans, which is very difficult for me because I was telling a story with a lot of funny parts, but with a lot of parts that were very traumatizing, and even in recreating those scenes was very, very hard to relive it. So that became maybe emotionally the most involved I was thus far making a film. The advice I usually give is not so much about how to make shots interesting, but how to recognize interesting stories and how to tell stories. Because I think filmmakers need, there are so many opportunities to learn from so many great cineasts working today. I learn actually more from young filmmakers today than I do from some of the older filmmakers that made movies 80, 90, 60 years ago, because some of the new filmmakers today are doing such audacious work. The Daniels, such amazing genius work on Everything Everywhere All at Once, and I'm learning from young filmmakers so much. But one of the things I'm learning is you got to have a good script. I've always said if it ain't on the page, it ain't on the stage. And I really believe that. And so my advice is if you want to be a movie director, first of all, write. And if you don't feel that's your strong suit, meet somebody whose strong suit is storytelling and writing, and form a little limited partnership, because it's the stories they're going to get an audience to pay attention to you, not the shots.
So sorry, I think this is the moment for me to make myself most unpopular.
No. Wait.
So thank you so much.
That's it? Okay. I'll do a few more.
Okay. So, good news, we can do some more, he said.
Okay. My name, which I did not choose, which I got from my father, which is an Austrian name, which essentially means play town or play mountain. My first production company, when I was 13 years old, I was copying Paramount, and I called it Playmount Productions. And I even had a mountain on it. You know, I was ripping off Paramount. I was like 13. But I think in a way, it's sort of the name has given me a sense of humor about myself. because it really does mean that the work I do as a filmmaker, if I'm not playing as I'm working, if the play doesn't match the level of the work, then I'm not going to have any fun. And even on films that are very, very difficult in terms of production or emotionally draining because of the subject matter, there's always been a sense of play in my films, which has always allowed me to add humor even to the most miserable moments of the story. Every scene I direct, there has to be a reason for the scene. If there's no reason for the scene, you should cut it out and not waste and save some money. And that essentially means that I'm very focused on what is every scene saying to make a whole based on the sum of many, many disparate, often disparate parts. And so, the primary characters, the secondary characters, there really aren't secondary characters. In every movie, every character makes a contribution to the telling of the story. And so there is no unimportant character in any story at all. And if there are unimportant characters, they shouldn't even be included in the script. So it's like building a painting. It's like building a picture based on tiles. You know how you tile things, and when you put 1,000 tiles together, they form one face. You've seen those portraitures of people's faces, and if you walk up to the portrait, there's tens of thousands of teeny portraits making up one large face. And that's what a movie really is for me. A movie is the sum of all of the details. And I always say, and I've always said this to young film students, don't sweat the big stuff. That'll take care of itself. But you got to sweat the small stuff. And that, I think, is the best answer I can give you right now. The honor about a Lifetime Achievement Award is just simply, it forces me to do something I don't often do. And it forces me to reflect. And reflecting means I'm not moving forward. For me, when I reflect, it means I'm spending too much time in neutral, just remembering. But I think what happened when I lost my dad 3 years ago, and I lost my mom today. She died 6 years ago today. My mom, Leah Adler Spielberg Posner. And I think it put me into a reflective mood after Mom passed away. And my father was still living. But that's one of the things, combined with the extra time I had during COVID, to really do an accounting and do look back. So, and then I did look back to try to figure out what story I could tell about my formative years. And that's, in a sense, what a Lifetime Achievement Award does. It makes you, it sends you back into the past, whether you want to go there or not. It makes you very reflective. And to be honored in Berlin, which is one of the most august, festivals in history, is a tremendous high point in my life. This honor.